She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. She'd been thinking about sending a message to someone she liked for a few days now, and today she had finally found the courage to do it. She typed the words carefully, wanting to sound light and playful, but at the same time warm and personal. She reread the message a few times, making small changes here and there until it felt just right. She smiled softly. At her own words, imagining the person reading them and feeling the same flutter in their heart, her mind wandered to all the small moments they had shared in the past. A few weeks, the way they had laughed together in the park, the way their eyes had met across a busy room, the small gestures that had made her heart feel lighter. She wanted to let them know that she was thinking of them without being too forward or awkward. The message she had written was simple, but full of meaning. She felt proud of herself for finally expressing something that had been building up inside for a long time. Just as she was about to hit send, her phone buzzed with another notification. She glanced at it, distracted for a moment by a message from a friend. And in that small lapse of attention, she tapped the wrong contact. Instead of sending the message to the person she had intended, she had sent it to someone completely different. A single dad she knew from a neighborhood group, someone she had met briefly at a community gathering but had never really spoken to in depth. The realization hit her only a few minutes later when she saw the response notification pop up on her screen. She froze, her heart skipping a beat. She could not believe what she had done. The single dad had opened the message and stared at it for a moment. His eyes widened slightly as he read the playful words meant for someone else. He was used to the usual neighborhood messages about lost pets or community announcements. But this message was different. It had warmth and charm in it that he did not often see in texts from people he knew. He was surprised at first, confused by the message coming to him, but then a small smile appeared on his face. He appreciated the kindness in the words, even if they were not meant for him. He thought about what to reply. Could ignore it and let it go, pretending it had never happened, but something inside him told him to respond. He wanted to acknowledge the message without overstepping boundaries. He wanted to show that he understood the situation and could share a little kindness back. He tapped a few words on his phone carefully, choosing a tone that was friendly and light. He hit send and leaned back in his chair, feeling a little nervous himself, wondering how the sender would react. Meanwhile, she was staring at her screen, trying to calm her racing heart. She had imagined embarrassment or awkwardness from sending the message to the wrong person, but what she saw instead was a reply that was thoughtful and gentle. It was not mocking or teasing. It was simply kind and understanding. Her shoulders relaxed as she read the words. She had expected tension or discomfort, but found warmth instead. She felt a strange sense of relief mixed with curiosity about the person who had responded as. The conversation began slowly. She noticed something unexpected. The single dad was easy to talk to. He had a way of making the words feel personal, even though they were typed. He shared small stories about his life in a way that was honest and gentle. He talked about his child and the small joys of parenting. He mentioned the challenges he faced, but without complaining, just giving a glimpse into his daily life. She found herself smiling at the screen, feeling a connection she had not anticipated. She had sent a message by mistake, but it had led to something that felt unexpectedly meaningful. First exchanges were cautious, both of them testing the waters with small talk and light humor. He asked about her day, and she replied with honest but simple answers. They shared little things about their routines, the places they liked to visit, the small pleasures that made them happy. They discovered that they had some things in common: a love for books, for quiet walks, for simple but meaningful conversations. Each message seemed to build a little bridge, connecting their lives in a subtle way. Days passed, and the messages became more regular. They started looking forward to the little notifications on their phones that meant the other person had reached out. The single dad would share a story about something funny his child had done during the day. She would respond with empathy and laughter. Her own life felt lighter as she found joy in the small interactions. They were learning about each other in small steps, discovering personalities and values that could only be revealed through genuine conversation. She thought about how strange life could be. One small mistake had opened a door to a connection she had never expected. She reflected on the importance of kindness and the way simple words could reach someone's heart. She had not planned for this, but she appreciated it. She realized that sometimes the unexpected paths in life could bring the most rewarding experiences. She felt gratitude for the person on the other side of the screen for taking the time to respond with care and understanding. The single dad also thought about the situation in his own way. He had been cautious at first, but found himself enjoying the messages. He appreciated the warmth and sincerity she brought into their conversation. He felt seen and valued in a way that was rare. He reflected on the moments he had shared with his child that day and how he could now share a little part of his world with someone who listened and cared. He smiled quietly, feeling a sense of connection that was gentle but meaningful. As the week went on, their conversation began to include small hints of humor and playfulness. He would make a light comment about a cooking mishap, and she would respond with teasing words that felt friendly and warm. They laughed together through the screen, sharing little moments of joy. They began to feel comfortable enough to share thoughts that were personal without fear of judgment. The exchange became a safe space where both could be themselves without pretense or worry. She began noticing how her mood changed after receiving his messages. She felt happier, lighter, more connected to the world around her. She had expected a simple exchange to someone she liked, but instead found a friend, someone who understood and could make her smile even through text. She reflected on the way life could surprise you, how a mistake could lead to something unexpected yet wonderful. She appreciated the human connection that had come into her life without planning or expectation. The single dad also began to feel a change. He noticed that the little messages from her gave him a sense of companionship he had been missing. He was used to quiet evenings at home with his child, and the daily routines that came with parenting alone. Now he had a small window into someone else's life, someone who shared warmth and kindness. He looked forward to the messages just as much as she did, appreciating the genuine interaction that brightened his day. One evening, she decided to share a small story about a walk she had taken in the park. She described the way the sun was setting, the colors in the sky, and the peaceful feeling she had experienced. He responded with a memory of a similar moment he had shared with his child, talking about the way they had laughed together chasing a stray dog that ran across the grass. Their exchange became a conversation about small joys and everyday happiness. They were learning to notice the beauty in ordinary moments, appreciating life in a way that felt shared and special. They continued exchanging messages over the next few days, each conversation building slowly on the last. Each word seemed to carry weight, not in a dramatic way, but in the simple way that human connection does. They discovered empathy, patience, and understanding in each other, discovering that listening and responding with care could create something meaningful. They were forming a bond that felt natural, gentle, and full of warmth. Without any expectation or pressure, she thought about how she could have been embarrassed about the mistake she had made, sending the message to the wrong person. But instead of feeling shame, she felt gratitude. She was grateful for the way he had responded, for the care and attention he had shown, for the kindness in his words. She realized that a single small moment could shift the course of a day or even a week, creating connections and memories that were unexpected yet cherished. The single dad reflected on the way life had brought this moment to him. He was grateful for the innocence and sincerity in her message, for the opportunity to connect without pretension. He appreciated the way they were learning about each other slowly, carefully, genuinely. The exchanges had become more than words on a screen. They were moments of human connection that were comforting, uplifting, and quietly beautiful. By the end of the week, they both felt a quiet sense of happiness from their conversations. They had shared smiles, laughs, stories, and small confessions. They had opened doors into each other's worlds, discovering warmth and care where neither had expected. It had begun with a simple mistake, but grown into a meaningful exchange of kindness. They both understood that sometimes the heart could find joy in the most unexpected places. The story of the mistaken message was no longer about error or accident. It had become about connection, trust, empathy, and the small ways humans could touch each other's lives. The young woman and the single dad had found something rare and genuine. They had discovered that messages carried not just words, but feelings that could be shared and cherished. Even in the digital world, there was room for warmth, honesty, and real human connection. As she put down her phone for the night, she felt a sense of peace. She reflected on the week, the laughter, the stories, and the gentle care in the words. They had created a little world of connection that was theirs to enjoy and nurture. She smiled, softly thinking about the journey that had begun with one small mistaken message. She felt hope and excitement for the future, knowing that sometimes life's surprises brought the most beautiful moments. The single dad also ended his day with quiet reflection. He thought about the laughter shared, the stories told, and the subtle ways the conversation had brightened his life. He felt grateful for the mistake that had led to this exchange, and for the care with which she had responded. He felt a sense of peace, warmth, and connection that lingered long after the screen had gone dark. He realized that small gestures and honest words could create meaning in unexpected ways. The first part of their story ended not with a dramatic event, but with a feeling, a quiet sense of joy and connection. It was the beginning of something gentle and heartfelt. A small mistake had opened the door to human warmth, kindness, and shared understanding. Both of them looked forward to the coming days, knowing that each message could carry the potential for laughter, comfort, and friendship. They had found beauty in the unexpected and cherished the start of a genuine connection. The next morning, she woke up feeling a little lighter than usual. She remembered the messages from the night before and smiled quietly to herself. The warmth of the conversation lingered in her mind as she got ready for her day. She thought about how unexpected it was that a simple mistake had led to this small connection. She still felt a bit of surprise at how comfortable it had become to share thoughts with someone she had barely known before. She wondered how it was possible that a few words on a screen could make her feel understood and valued. She went about her morning routine, making tea and preparing breakfast, while her mind wandered back to the conversation from the night before. She remembered his careful words, the gentle humor, and the sincerity behind each sentence. She realized she was starting to look forward to these exchanges more than she had anticipated. Each notification from him brought a little spark of happiness that she had not expected. She wondered what he was doing at that moment and whether he was thinking about the messages as much as she was. Meanwhile, he had started his day with the same quiet anticipation. He checked his phone first thing in the morning, hoping to see a message from her. The thought of their conversation made him smile as he remembered her words and the way she had expressed herself so naturally. He felt a little lighter carrying the connection into his day. Even in the routine of parenting and work, he found that these messages added a small but meaningful layer of joy to his life. He thought about how unusual it was to feel so comfortable with someone he had only known through text. They began exchanging messages throughout the morning, small notes about their day, simple observations about the weather, or little moments that had made them smile. She shared a story about a bird that had landed on her balcony and how it had stayed for a few moments before flying away. He responded with a story about a similar experience he had had with his child, laughing at the way the little one had tried to get the bird to come closer. Each message was lighthearted, but also full of subtle understanding and shared humanity. They began to feel like companions, even though they had never met in a serious way. As the day went on, the conversation slowly became deeper. She decided to tell him about a small challenge she had been facing at work. She wrote carefully, choosing words that were honest but not too heavy. She wanted to share a piece of her life without overwhelming him. He responded with empathy and encouragement. He asked questions gently, showing interest in her feelings and experiences without making it awkward or intrusive. She felt comforted by the way he listened through text and the thoughtfulness of his replies. He shared some stories from his own life, talking about the little responsibilities of raising a child alone, the moments of worry and the moments of unexpected joy. He did not complain or seek sympathy. He simply shared reality in a way that felt honest and grounding. She listened carefully through her words on the screen, feeling her own heart open. She had not realized how much the simple act of sharing stories could build trust and connection. She found herself laughing at his small anecdotes and feeling moved by the tender moments he described. By the afternoon, they were exchanging more personal observations. She talked about her favorite books and the small routines that helped her feel calm. He responded by sharing some of his favorite activities with his child. They began discovering more about each other's values and ways of seeing the world, though conversation flowed naturally, as though they had always known each other in some small hidden way. They were learning the rhythm of each other's thoughts, appreciating the care and patience behind every response. She began noticing little patterns in the way he wrote the pauses between messages, the thoughtful words, the way he used humor to lighten more serious moments. She found comfort in the predictability, yet also excitement in the occasional surprise. He noticed her care in crafting her messages. The way she paused to reflect in the little details she shared, he appreciated that she allowed him to glimpse her. Life entrusted him with her thoughts. They were building trust slowly and carefully, without pressure or expectation. Evening approached. She decided to send a slightly longer message describing her day in detail. She wrote about the morning walk. She had taken the way the sun had reflected off the water, how it had made her feel peaceful. She included small reflections about the way people in the park moved about their routines, how children played, and how little moments could make a day special. He read the message carefully, savoring the words. He responded with a story from his evening walk with his child, describing the small joys of laughter and shared discovery. He sent the story not just as words, but with warmth that made her feel included in the experience. Over the next few days, they continued this gentle exchange, gradually moving from small observations to slightly deeper conversations. She started to share her hopes and dreams, the things that mattered most to her. He responded with encouragement and shared some of his own aspirations. They discovered a common love for simple joys and thoughtful living. They were finding ways to connect even across the screen, appreciating the sincerity and authenticity. Each brought to the conversation. One afternoon, she sent a picture of a small craft she had made, a little decoration for her room. She wanted to share a piece of her creativity with him and see his reaction. He responded with genuine interest, asking questions about the process and showing curiosity. She appreciated that he took the time to notice and inquire rather than simply respond superficially. It made her feel seen and valued in a way that was rare. The conversation continued with small tips and encouragement, creating a space of mutual support and gentle appreciation. He also decided to share a small moment from his day. He took a photo of a little drawing his child had made and sent it to her. She smiled, seeing the innocent creativity and the joy in the little image. She responded with praise and laughter, sharing how it reminded her of simple happiness. He felt satisfied that he had brought a smile to her face through something so small yet meaningful. They were learning that connection was not only in words but also in small gestures and shared moments. As the week continued, they began to anticipate their conversations more consciously. She found herself looking forward to the breaks in her day when she could reply to his messages. He enjoyed the little pauses in his busy day when he could think of her thoughts and respond. She realized that even though they had never met in a serious way, their bond was growing. She started noticing that he had become a quiet presence in her life, a source of gentle encouragement and joy that she had not expected. They also began to explore light humor and playful banter in their messages. She sent small jokes or observations, and he replied with witty responses that made her laugh. She noticed that even through text, they were able to create a shared sense of fun and amusement. It made the interaction feel more natural and human. Their bond was not just about understanding, but also about enjoying each other's company. Even across the distance of screens, one evening she wrote about a difficult day she had experienced. She shared her frustrations and small setbacks. She was surprised to find herself confiding so openly. She had not expected to share these thoughts with someone she had met by mistake. He responded with gentle encouragement and reassurance, reminding her of her strengths and patience. She felt a deep sense of comfort, knowing that someone cared enough to listen and offer support without judgment. Also found himself opening up more than he had intended. He shared moments of worry and moments of hope about raising his child. He expressed the small fears he sometimes carried and the quiet triumphs he felt when his child smiled or accomplished something new. She listened carefully through her words, feeling empathy and admiration. It was a slow unfolding of trust and mutual understanding that neither had expected when the first message arrived by mistake. By midweek, they had created a rhythm to their conversations each day. They shared small stories, observations, and reflections. They laughed and empathized. They built a space where each felt comfortable being seen and valued. She thought about how unexpected this connection had become and how meaningful it was. He reflected on the same, thinking about the rare moments of shared understanding that could emerge in the most unlikely ways. were both learning that connection could be simple, yet profound. When nurtured with Karshay, found herself thinking about him even when she was not texting. He had become a quiet presence in her mind. She wondered about his day, his thoughts, and the little moments he was experiencing with his child. She realized that the simple act of exchanging messages had created a bond that was becoming increasingly important. She appreciated the honesty and kindness in each word, the subtle care that came through each response. He also found himself reflecting on her words. He noticed the way she shared her thoughts carefully, how she expressed herself, and the warmth that came through her messages. He appreciated the trust she placed in him and the patience with which she engaged in conversation. He felt a quiet joy in knowing that even a mistaken message had led to a meaningful exchange and had brought a small sense of happiness to both of their lives. By the end of the week, they had shared stories of laughter and small frustrations, hopes and small victories. They had created a rhythm and a space that felt safe, comfortable, and uplifting. They had discovered a rare and genuine connection built on kindness, humor, empathy, and trust. It had begun with a simple accidental message but grown into something neither had anticipated yet. Both had come to value deeply. She realized that sometimes mistakes could lead to the most unexpected joys. She appreciated the way he responded to her words with care and understanding. She reflected on the small moments of shared laughter and empathy that had made the past few days feel lighter. She felt gratitude for the way life could surprise and create connections in the most unusual ways. He also realized that this unexpected exchange had become an important part of his life. He appreciated the warmth and sincerity she brought to each message. He valued the shared moments of laughter, reflection, and encouragement. They had built a connection that was gentle, meaningful, and human. Even across screens, they had discovered that even mistakes could carry the seeds of something beautiful and lasting. As the weekend approached, they continued their conversations with the same care and attention. She shared a story about a quiet afternoon reading a favorite book. He responded with a story about a small activity he had done with his child. They laughed over small moments of coincidence and shared delight. They were learning to enjoy each other's company in a way that was effortless and natural. The exchange had grown from accidental messages into a shared understanding and appreciation of each other's world. The part of the story that began with a simple mistake had transformed into something gentle, meaningful, and uplifting. They were discovering that human connection could emerge from the most unexpected circumstances. She realized that the first accidental message had led to a week full of small joys, understanding, and empathy. He realized that the same message had brought warmth, laughter, and reflection into his life. They were both learning the quiet power of connection and the beauty of shared experience. The days passed, and the conversation between them grew slowly deeper each. The message was a small bridge connecting their lives. She began to notice the little things about him, the way he spoke about his child, the care he took in describing moments that mattered to him. She found herself waiting for his messages with a quiet anticipation that she had never expected. She realized that even though they had never met properly, there was a sense of understanding and trust building between them. He also began to reflect on her messages with more thought. He noticed the way she expressed herself, the small details she included, and the gentle humor that appeared from time to time. He found comfort in the consistency of her words and the sincerity that came through every sentence. He felt a growing sense of appreciation for her presence in his life, even though it existed only through screens and typed words. One morning, she shared a story about a small incident in a cafe she had visited, described the way the light had fallen through the windows, the smell of fresh bread and coffee, and the small kindness of a stranger who had smiled at her. She wrote with warmth and attention to detail. He read carefully, imagining the scene. She had a way of painting the world in words that made him feel like he was there with her. He responded by sharing a similar story from a trip to the park with his child. He described the laughter and the small adventure of discovering something new together there. Conversations began to include reflections about life. She started to write about her dreams, her worries, and the things that made her feel uncertain. She felt safe sharing these thoughts because of the way he responded with empathy and gentle encouragement. He wrote about the challenges of parenting alone, The small fears he carried and the moments of pride and joy that kept him going, they were learning to share their vulnerabilities. Without fear of judgment or misunderstanding, he also began to ask questions that showed he genuinely wanted to understand. He asked about her day, her thoughts on books and music, the small routines that helped her feel calm. She answered thoughtfully, enjoying the way he listened and responded with care. Each exchange became a delicate dance of sharing and listening. They discovered a rhythm that felt natural and comforting, even though it existed only through words on a screen. She noticed the little ways he made her feel valued. He remembered details from previous messages, asked follow-up questions, and remembered small preferences. She appreciated the attention and thoughtfulness. It was rare to feel so understood in such a short time. She realized that even though it had started with a mistaken message, there was now a sense of connection that was growing. Steadily, he also noticed how her presence in the conversation made his day feel lighter. He enjoyed the pauses when he could think about his replies and how she might receive them. He valued the laughter they shared, the small jokes, and the gentle encouragement they gave each other. They were building a bond that was slow and careful, yet strong in its sincerity. One afternoon, she described a small act of kindness she had witnessed. She had helped an elderly neighbor carry groceries and described the gratitude in the stranger's smile. He responded with a story of a similar moment with his child, when they had tried to help a neighbor and ended up laughing together at a small mishap. They were finding joy in simple acts and sharing the meaning they found in everyday moments. The conversation began to include small reflections on the world around them. She wrote about noticing people in quiet moments, the way someone paused to enjoy a flower or the sound of laughter in a park. He wrote about observing his child, discovering something new each day. They were learning to notice and appreciate small details together. Their shared observations created a quiet sense of connection that neither had anticipated. She also began to share thoughts about her own growth, the small steps she was taking to feel calmer and more present. She wrote about the books she read, the walks she took, and the small challenges she faced in learning patience and understanding. He responded with encouragement and shared the ways he tried to teach similar values to his child. They discovered that even small exchanges could carry deep meaning and create a sense of shared experience. He also began to reveal more of his personality. She noticed his sense of humor and the subtle ways he phrased things, and the gentle way he teased without offending. She appreciated the way he could bring lightness into serious topics and calmness into moments of uncertainty. Their exchange was becoming richer. With each passing day, she began looking forward to sharing small parts of her life with him every morning and evening. She would notice little moments she wanted to tell him about and type them immediately, enjoying the way he would respond. She realized that it was not just about the stories themselves, but about the feeling of being heard and understood. He had become a quiet anchor in her daily routine, someone whose words brought comfort and warmth. He also found himself reflecting on her messages during quiet moments of his day. He appreciated the care she put into describing her thoughts and experiences. He enjoyed the laughter she shared and the sincerity she expressed. He realized that the connection they were forming was more meaningful than he had expected from a simple accidental message. One day, she shared a personal anecdote about her childhood memories. She described a small tradition with her family that brought her comfort and nostalgia. He responded with a story from his own past, sharing a memory of a small tradition he had enjoyed with his child. She was touched by his openness and the way he invited her into his past experiences. They were discovering more about each other in ways that felt natural and gentle. Their conversations also began to touch on emotions they sometimes found difficult to express. She shared moments of worry about the future, and he responded with gentle encouragement. She described moments of joy, and he celebrated with her. They were learning to navigate emotions through words and empathy, discovering a subtle depth in their connection that felt safe and meaningful. She also began to notice the small ways he thought about her. She could tell from his questions and the care in his responses that he paid attention to her feelings. She appreciated the effort he put into making her feel understood even when discussing ordinary topics. She realized that the bond they were building was more than casual conversation. It was the slow creation of trust and emotional understanding. He also began to notice the small ways she expressed herself, the details she included in her stories, and the thoughtfulness in her reflections. He appreciated the patience she showed and the humor she brought. He found himself looking forward to the moments when he could read her messages, slowly savoring the warmth in her words. They were both learning the value of small gestures and building human connection. As the days went on, they shared small victories and accomplishments. She wrote about finishing a small project at work. He responded with encouragement and shared a similar accomplishment in his day. They discovered a quiet joy in celebrating each other's efforts, and in feeling genuinely seen. They were learning that connection was not only about big moments, but also about noticing and appreciating the little things in life. She also began to share small frustrations and challenges. She described moments when she felt anxious or unsure. He responded with empathy and reassurance, showing that he understood and valued her feelings. They were discovering the way trust and care could be expressed through attention and thoughtful words. They began to feel that their messages created a gentle refuge from the stress of everyday life. He also shared his own small struggles. She listened and offered support. Even through text, she was surprised at how comforting it felt to be able to share understanding and empathy. She realized that their connection had grown beyond casual conversation into a subtle partnership of care and respect. They were slowly learning the depth of human connection through patient communication. One afternoon, she sent a photo of a small painting she had done. She wanted to show a piece of herself and her creativity. He responded with interest, asking questions about the colors and the story behind it. She appreciated that he engaged with her expression with curiosity and encouragement. It made her feel valued and understood beyond words. He also shared a drawing his child had made. She responded with praise and amusement. Enjoying the innocence and creativity in the image, they laughed and shared little observations about the ways children see the world. They were finding joy in simple shared experiences, in the beauty and small moments of everyday life. Their conversations also included reflections on kindness. She shared stories of little acts of generosity she had witnessed. He responded with stories of similar moments from his life. They were exploring the meaning of human connection and the subtle ways that empathy and care could shape lives. They discovered that sharing these moments strengthened the bond between them even further. She noticed the way he listened to her stories and responded with thoughtfulness. She felt seen and appreciated. She realized that this connection was rare and special in its gentleness and sincerity. He noticed her careful attention to his words and her willingness to share her life with him. He valued her presence and the sense of companionship that had grown between them. By the end of the week, they had shared laughter, reflections, hopes, and small confessions. They had discovered a sense of trust and understanding that neither had expected. They had created a space of warmth, care, and gentle connection that was meaningful. Even without physical presence, the bond that had begun with a mistaken message was now a steady thread of companionship woven through their days. She reflected on the journey so far, the unexpected joy, and the growing understanding she appreciated. The kindness and attention he had shown, and the way he made her feel valued. She felt a sense of gratitude for the way life could surprise, and for the small moments that created real connection. He reflected on the same, noticing the sincerity and thoughtfulness she brought to every message. He appreciated the laughter they shared, the trust they had built, and the gentle support they gave each other. They were learning that human connection could emerge from the most unexpected circumstances, and that even a small, accidental message could grow into something meaningful and lasting. The week closed with a quiet sense of warmth and anticipation. They both looked forward to the next conversation, the next shared story, the next moment of connection. They had discovered that slow, careful communication could build trust and joy even without meeting in person. They were learning the beauty of small gestures, sincere words, and the gentle unfolding of friendship. The story that began with a simple mistake had grown into something quietly profound. They were discovering each other slowly, thoughtfully, and with care. They shared laughter, reflection, hope, and empathy, creating a bond that was gentle yet strong. They had learned that meaningful connection could begin anywhere, even from an unexpected message, and grow into a source of comfort and joy. The morning light filtered through her window as she reached for her phone. She felt a gentle anticipation in her chest, wondering what messages awaited her from him over the past weeks. Their conversations had become a quiet rhythm in her life, something she looked forward to each day. She smiled softly, remembering the small moments of shared laughter and thoughtful stories that had made the days lighter. She had not expected a simple message sent by mistake to create such a connection, but she cherished it quietly. He had started his day in a similar way. Checking his phone as soon as he could, he enjoyed seeing her words waiting for him and taking the time to read them carefully. He noticed the details she included and the care with which she expressed herself. He felt a warmth in his chest as he typed back, responding with curiosity and gentle humor. Their conversation had become a quiet part of his routine, a source of comfort and lightness. Even in the busyness of parenting and work, she decided to share a small moment from her morning. She described walking to the local market, noticing the sunlight falling on the leaves and the small smile of a stranger passing by. She sent the message slowly, savoring the words and the feeling behind them. He read the message, imagining the scene, and responded with a story of a morning walk he had taken with his child. The child had run ahead chasing a butterfly, and they had laughed together at the little adventure. The small stories created a shared sense of joy and observation between them throughout the day. Their conversation continued to weave small moments of connection. She shared details about the food she had bought and the way the market felt calm and lively at the same time. He responded with his own stories about grocery shopping with his child, the small challenges and the laughter that came from unexpected moments. They began noticing the little joys in everyday life together, appreciating the beauty in ordinary experiences. Later, she sent a photo of a small craft she had made, a decoration for her room she wanted to share a piece of herself and her creativity. He responded with genuine interest, asking questions about how she made it and what inspired her. She felt a warm glow seeing his curiosity and encouragement. It made her feel valued and appreciated in a simple way that words alone sometimes could not convey. He sent a picture of a little drawing his child had made, and she responded with delight and laughter. They shared moments of joy over small creations and the innocence of simple expressions. As the day turned into evening, they shared reflections on the week. She described a quiet moment reading a favorite book and feeling calm. Responded with a story about an evening routine with his child, the small rituals they had developed together. The exchange felt gentle and natural, building a rhythm of sharing and understanding. They began noticing how small details in each other's lives revealed character, warmth, and empathy. She wrote about a small frustration she had experienced earlier in the day. A task had not gone as she hoped, and she felt a little discouraged. He responded with reassurance and encouragement, showing empathy and understanding. He reminded her of her strengths and the little victories that often went unnoticed. She felt a deep sense of comfort in his words, appreciating the patience and care behind them. Their bond grew stronger through the quiet sharing of both joys and challenges. He also shared a personal story about a challenge he had faced in the week raising his child. She listened carefully and responded with kindness and thoughtfulness, expressing understanding and support. They discovered the subtle way in which words of encouragement could build trust and make life feel a little easier. She realized that even through text, they had created a space of safety and warmth where they could be honest and open. Later in the week, she shared a reflection on a book she had recently read. She described the way it made her think about kindness and empathy. He responded with his own reflections and shared how he tried to teach similar values to his child. They discovered a shared understanding of what mattered to them and a quiet alignment in how they saw the world. Their conversations became more than stories. They became a dialogue about values and life lessons. One afternoon, she sent a short message about noticing a small act of kindness in a stranger. He responded with a story from his day, showing a similar moment of generosity between his child and a neighbor. They laughed together over the coincidence and found joy in noticing the little ways humans could care for each other. Their conversations began to include reflection on the beauty of shared experiences and the small ways in which life could be meaningful. She began sending small drawings and doodles she had made to accompany her messages. He responded with similar little creations from his child. The exchange of these small creative gestures created a sense of playful intimacy and warmth. They discovered that even simple images could carry a feeling of connection and joy. They were slowly building a tapestry of shared moments an understanding that felt real and heartfelt. He also shared a quiet thought about a moment that had made him happy that day. She responded with encouragement and laughter. They were learning to celebrate the little things together and find joy in small victories. Their exchange became a space for reflection, gratitude, and lightness. They found comfort in knowing that even ordinary moments could be shared and appreciated together later. She sent a story about a challenge at work and the small way she had overcome it. He responded with gentle encouragement and shared his own experience navigating challenges as a single parent. They were discovering that mutual understanding and empathy could create a quiet bond that was deeply meaningful, even without physical presence. They appreciated the value of honest communication and thoughtful responses. The week continued. They shared more personal thoughts. She spoke about hopes for the future and small goals she wanted to achieve. He responded with encouragement and shared his own aspirations. They began discovering alignment in values and intentions, even in small things. Their bond was growing stronger through this steady exchange of trust, care, and warmth. One evening, she described a quiet moment in her home, noticing the little lights and shadows in the calm atmosphere. She sent the words slowly, savoring the feeling. He responded with a story about a similar moment of calm in his evening routine. He described the laughter of his child and the simple pleasure of being together. They were learning to share the quiet and tender moments of life, appreciating each other's perspective. She began noticing the way he paid attention to details. She shared he remembered her words and responded with curiosity and care. She realized that he valued the connection in a way that was thoughtful and genuine. He also noticed her careful attention to his stories and experiences. The mutual awareness and consideration strengthened the bond they were building through steady conversation. Later in the week, she sent a photo of a sunset she had seen on her walk. He responded with a story about a similar evening he had enjoyed with his child. They shared reflections on the colors, the light, and the small peace in the moment. The exchange created a sense of shared experience and quiet intimacy. They were discovering that even small gestures could carry meaning and warmth. He also shared a small victory from his day, accomplishing a task with his child. She responded with laughter and encouragement. They were learning to celebrate each other's successes even in small things. The shared joy created a sense of connection that grew steadily, and naturally they were building trust through these small yet meaningful moments. She began to reflect on the unexpectedness of this connection, the simple, accidental. The message had led to a week of gentle, shared moments and understanding. She felt gratitude for the care and warmth he brought to each conversation. She realized that even small words and small gestures could create a feeling of deep human connection. Also reflected on the meaning of their exchange. He appreciated the kindness and thoughtfulness she brought to each interaction. He valued the laughter, empathy, and quiet trust that had grown between them. They were discovering that connection could emerge from unexpected circumstances and grow steadily. Through patient care and attention. One day, she shared a story about a small act of generosity she had observed. She described the way a stranger had helped someone without expectation of reward. He responded with a story about a similar moment he had witnessed with his child. They discovered joy and meaning in observing simple acts of kindness. Their conversations began to include reflection on shared human values in the small ways they could impact life around them. She sent a small message about her day and included a photo of a sketch she had made. He responded with genuine interest and curiosity, asking questions and showing appreciation for her effort. They discovered that sharing small personal creations added warmth and meaning to their exchange. They began enjoying the subtle ways they could make each other smile and feel appreciated. Later, he shared a thought about a quiet moment he had observed. She responded with empathy and reflection. They were learning to communicate and connect through small but meaningful observations. Their bond continued to grow through mutual attention and genuine interest in each other's experiences. She began noticing the small ways he anticipated her responses and understood her perspective. He seemed to remember little details from previous conversations. She felt valued and appreciated. They were creating a steady pattern of caring communication that was slow and gentle, yet deeply meaningful. Notice the subtle ways she responded to his stories with understanding and irresistible. Curiosity, he appreciated the quiet warmth in her messages. And the care she took in expressing herself. They discovered that connection could be built steadily through empathy, attention, and shared experience. They were finding comfort and joy in the ongoing dialogue that had begun with a mistaken message. By the end of the week, they had shared laughter, reflections, quiet moments of joy, small personal victories. They had created a bond that was gentle, sincere, deeply human. Their conversations had become a source of comfort and happiness. They were learning that the slow unfolding of understanding and care could build something meaningful even without physical presence. She reflected on the journey so far and felt gratitude for the unexpected connection. She appreciated the warmth, thoughtfulness, and empathy he brought to their conversations. She realized that small gestures and honest words could create deep human connection. He reflected similarly, valuing the laughter, trust, and understanding that had grown between them. Week ended with a quiet sense of fulfillment. They both looked forward to the next day, the next story, and the next moment of shared reflection. They had discovered the beauty of human connection in the simplest forms through shared attention, empathy, and small gestures. They had learned that even a mistaken message could grow into a meaningful, heartwarming bond. The morning sunlight touched her face as she reached for her phone. She felt a quiet anticipation in her chest, thinking about the messages they would exchange today over the past weeks. The connection had grown slowly and gently. She reflected on how a simple mistake had led to this feeling of warmth and understanding that now filled her. Days she smiled softly, remembering the laughter, the small stories, and the moments of shared reflection that had made the days lighter and more meaningful. He started his day in a similar way. Checking his phone brought a sense of comfort and anticipation. He remembered the messages from the night before and smiled quietly. They had become a part of his routine, a small but significant source of joy and reflection. He appreciated the steady rhythm of conversation and the way they had learned to share both small joys and quiet worries through simple words. She began the morning by describing a walk she had taken early in the day. She noticed the way the sunlight reflected off the windows and how the air felt crisp and clean. She sent the message, slowly savoring the thought of him reading it. He responded with a story about a morning he had spent with his child, noticing the small wonders in nature and the laughter that came from discovering something new together. Their messages created a sense of shared experience, as if they had been walking side by side. Even though they were apart throughout the day, they continued exchanging small stories and reflections. She shared a moment of quiet creativity when she had painted a small sketch for herself. He responded with gentle curiosity and encouragement, asking questions about her process and thoughts. She appreciated his interest and the way he encouraged her without judgment or expectation. He shared a small drawing his child had made, and she responded with delight and amusement. They discovered that small creative gestures could carry warmth and build connection. Later, she shared a moment of vulnerability, worry she had carried for a few days. She described the anxiety and the way it had made her feel uncertain. He responded with understanding and reassurance, showing empathy and gentle encouragement. She felt a deep sense of comfort in his words, appreciating the sincerity and care behind each message. They were learning to support each other in subtle ways that went beyond casual conversation. He also shared a challenge he had faced that week as a single parent. She listened carefully and responded with empathy and understanding. She was surprised at how naturally the conversation flowed and how comfortable it had become to share honest thoughts and feelings. They discovered that through words and attention, they could create a sense of trust and safety even without physical presence.